all of that. And so we want to go beyond that. What was interesting to us was to get started in what they call conversational transactions in instant messaging. I'll get into that a little bit later, but keep that in the back of your mind. We also wanted to dip our feet in artificial intelligence and how we can use that, despite being recent graduates of Byte Academy, in terms of how to use AI in applications. The question is, why bots and AI, right? Our goal is to enable superhuman abilities, and I'll explain what that means, for everyday people through AI-aided technologies. And what I mean by superhuman is that to enable ordinary people to go above and beyond what their human capabilities are, right? And you see this already today, right? You see, for example, that chess used to be a sport that didn't use computers, but after Deep Blue, IBM beat Kasparov, chess had a resurgence because now you have what you call freestyle chess, which is really the use of computers and chess. And now you have more grandmasters and higher ranked grandmasters than ever before. Of course, this being a fintech startup company, teaching company, you all know about algorithmic trading and how that enables computers to run rings around ordinary traders. So today we're going to be talking about AI-enhanced decisions and how we can use them. Here's the problem, right? You have a lot of information coming at you. It's like a fire hose of information, both from the personal and business side. And a lot of that is unstructured, right? Tweets, YouTube videos, all sorts of things. So how do you deal with all of that information coming in? Guess what, right? This is just the start. Because what's happening is that the amount of information is increasing as more and more machines, as more and more people generate content, right? And so, yes, it's an inside arms race in terms of how are you going to run your business, how are you going to deal with all of this information and come up with the best information possible for you to predict the future and make an assessment of what you want to do. Why now? Well, guess what, right? In a few years, in 4 years, you'll have 400% more information than you have now. It's a really frightening thought, and you either look at it and say you want to do something about it, or you just wait for the wave to rush in. We're going to focus on messaging, right? Instant messaging, which is a smaller part, which is a large section of this big data flow. What happened was the number of active users in messaging apps has actually surpassed the number of users in social networking apps. In fact, that happened in 2015. So the solution that we're thinking of in terms of just enabling people to get superhuman abilities is to enlist artificial intelligence to sift through this data flow, have these bots, right, which are called smart agents, interrupt us when there's important insight for action, and then just repeat that, right? Our bots, right, and what's a bot, right? Our bots do what we kind of know of as robots, right? They carry out complex series of actions automatically, right? But in addition to that, our bots reside inside digital conversations. They can listen in and offer some interaction with the client. And through AI, right, artificial intelligence, they can learn and adapt. How does this work? Well, the big data is there. It's a river of information coming in, and we can't absorb 99% of the data we encounter. So we need bots or smart agents to analyze this personal data feed. Then the bots are supposed to know how to interrupt us, right, when they find something of value. And over time, when they learn a reaction, they get better at anticipating and assisting us with context. And just repeat. Conversational bots are bots that are inside instant messaging. For example, here, this is an example of what Facebook's M Virtual Assistant does when they are inside. So you have two people conversing about going somewhere, right? The address comes out, and what happens is the bot will say, oh, you want to go there, tap the address, and you'll get an Uber. So this is conversational transaction going on. This is our capstone project, and I'll talk about it a little bit before we get into the demo. It's a bot server, as well as some bots that we spun up, one with an AI on the instant messaging. The bot server will be the main focus of what we've done, and then the bots that it spun off will be exhibited as well. We just want to talk about the technologies that we've used in this project. So this is a Python shop, so we've used Django, Django framework. We've used Python, JavaScript in the front end, Node.js for the asynchronous communication, HTML, CSS, OAuth for logging in, API calls, and Postgres for the use of the users. On the bot side, we lean heavily on the IBM AI Watson platform, the Slack API, as well as Howdy AI. Let me talk to you about the mothership, right? The bot server. The bot server is a website that allows a user to load up active bot details into a database, right? Wrap the bot in a bot wrapper object, and Brian will explain a little bit more about that. Choose the bots that they want. We have two right now, called the Tone bot and the FAQ bot that we'll talk about. And start up the bots connection to Slack, which is our platform for instant messaging. And then keep a track of all of the running bots. In addition to the bot server that's running everything, right? We've actually spawned bots. Bots like the Tone bot. And Tone bot here utilizes the AI of IBM. It's a Slack bot that listens in on a conversation, right? It parses the conversation through the Watson AI, washes it through the Watson AI, right? It determines the conversation tone, and by tone I mean, is this conversation going towards someone who's angry, who's joyful, who's sad, who's disgusted, who's fearful, right? And when they do that, if the threshold is met, the AI will react to dial down the tone of the conversation, right? Simple. Here's an example of the conversation that went through between the Aziz bot, which is our bot, and some of the users along the way. So these are the anger levels and the thresholds that we set. In addition to that, a fact bot is really something like Byte Academy can use, or any business can use, right? You have a lot of people coming in and asking the same repetitive questions, right? Tell us your address, what do you teach, right? How long do I have to study, so on and so forth. Well, sometimes it might be useful, it might be a HR enhancer to have all of these questions answered anonymously by a bot. We have a culture bot, and culture bot is really our image of what a member of a community needs to know, right? So for example, within Byte Academy, we have what we call Friday check-ins. Now, when you become a student here, you don't know what a Friday check-in is. It's a weekly meeting of just for yourself, right? You just hang out. But you also have to clean the bugs, right? And you have to know how to use the teaching assistants, right? So all of these can be given by Super K-Bot, which is our grant. That's Kay over there, by the way. She's a real person. And we have a Billy Bot. A Billy Bot is just another spin-off of what we've done. Every day there's a meeting. There are meetings for development people, right? What did you do last night? What are you going to be working on today? Do you have any blockages? What's stopping you from doing what you want to do? And usually these meetings are repetitious and boring, but if you have the bot collected, then the team leader can actually get all of the information without bothering the people. So these are samples of our bots, as well as what we do. So I'll give it on to Brian.
here, this is the overall architecture of our project. It's split into two main apps. On the front end, we have a Django Python web app. This is where the user can log in and select from different kinds of bots, configure certain settings on it, like what they want the bot to say, for instance, and then it'll go to the back end where the bot will actually be deployed and it can start talking to people. So on the back end, we wrote an app in Node.js. So say a user creates a new bot, right? The information gets passed to the Node app in JSON format. It hits this bot server API, so this is the entryway point to the back end. At that point, the bot manager takes over, and its job is to spin up this bot using the information that the user gave it. First, it just saves it to a database in MongoDB. That's just in case the server ever has to restart. It can start back up again, and it'll pick up where it left off, basically. So when it's instantiating a new bot from these user configurations that we got from the front end, it looks, what kind of bot did the user want? Did it want a tone bot, an FAQ bot, or some other bot that we haven't implemented yet? It pulls from these libraries. These libraries have the brains of the bot. You know, it explains like what the bot's going to listen for, when it's going to react, the basic logic. And then these bots also use some other technologies on the back end. So the FAQ bot uses a bias classifier. This is a way of automating an FAQ and making it interactive. So for any question that you have on an FAQ, it can classify different versions of questions to that topic. And I'll explain it a little bit more when we do the demo. The tone bot communicates with the IBM Watson Tone Analyzer API. This helps us determine the tones in conversation. So it returns back some data with a weight on 5 different sentiments. As Mark explained, it's sadness, fear, joy, and all of those. We used MongoDB on the back ends because we wanted to leave the properties of the bots sort of open-ended. We're not sure at this point like what bots will be implemented other than the ones we've made. So it's kind of nice. You can leave it in a very unstructured format. It's up to the programmer how they want the bots to be. And we used Node.js, as Mark said before, because it excels at asynchronous communication. So you could have like a picture, like right now we have a couple bots running, but we can scale this up and it should work without blocking each other. You know, the bots will respond when they need to respond, otherwise they're not doing anything. And yeah, so that's the architecture. At this point, I'm going to pass it over to Jared, who will lead the demonstration.
I'll be going over the standard use case of our platform. As you can see here, we have our front end side of things, and basically what we wanted to do is provide a platform in which users can be able to analyze and manage their bots. Now, our plan for our project was to extend our bots from using different messaging platforms. Right now, we're using Slack due to the easily accessible API, but we plan on extending that to IRC, Facebook Messenger, because Facebook is starting a business website, so we plan on extending that, and to have our front end side to be able to manage all your bots. Now, say for example you're a new company and you're low on cash, so you want something to be able to limit your amount of money that you're spending on human resource and administration. So after going through 103 pages of search results on Google, you find our website and you realize there's something wrong with Google algorithm. So you go to our page, read a little bit about ourselves, see a quick demo, and decide to log in. So you log in, you're going to just go through that. And as you can see, this is the dashboard that shows you the different bots that you have deployed. So you'll be able to easily manage your bots and see, all right, I made a tone bot on March 12th, etc. Now we're going to go through adding a bot. We're going to go through adding a tone bot. As Marco explained, we use IBM Tone Analyzer, which basically it analyzes the text that you put in, and it analyzes based on the motion, social, social characteristics, and one other. But we decided to go with the emotion side because this one made sense to us. So tone analyzer is based on a threshold of 0 to 1. 1 being sensitive, so anything that's angry, anything that sounds the tone thinks it's in, the API thinks it's angry, it's going to respond, and 0 being unsensitive. So what you need is a Slack token. So you go with your Slack into your settings and configure settings, and copy your Slack token and add it into the form, Slack token form. And you'll set the different settings on the emotions that which feels comfortable with you. So if you want your bot to analyze people that have sounds or tone and feel like they're angry or sad, you set the threshold accordingly. You will add in the different responses in which you feels comfortable for the bot, the personality that you want your bot to have. So Brian will go through that right now. This is good for if people are in your Slack channels and they're getting out of hand, and you're as a business owner, you're not going to be in all your channels analyzing what people are saying. So it's good to have a bot that's going through these and telling someone that, hey, you're looking kind of crazy, you sound kind of crazy. So as you can see, once we created the bot, JSON data was sent to the API, which is sent to the bot manager, and the bot manager basically looks for figure out what bot that you want to use and say, hey buddy, it's time, it's your time to start working. And what you'll have to do is just invite, once you press create, it will be added to your organization, and you can easily just invite that bot into whichever channel that you feel comfortable. So Brian is doing that. So right here we have an example of our tone bot. Brian is going to say a couple things and see the responses that you get. As you can see, we're sending different information, and once he say I'm feeling sick, it says yeah, ill. Now we're going to head on over to the frequently asked question bot and add that. Now how the frequently asked question bot works, it works the same. You just have to add a Slack token, and you add in different question variations and respond the answer that you want. The more variations of the question that you add in, the smarter the bot gets. So if you're working on a boot camp, you're going to get the same questions a lot. It's like, what programming language do you use? Ruby? What do you use? Python? Do you teach programming? It's basically the same question, just in different formats. And as a human, you get kind of tired after a long day working 40 hours a week, and the person just keep asking the same question. So it's good to have a bot that will do this for you. And as you can see, you can add in different questions and different variations. And Brian is going through that right now. And as you can see, you're able to manage all the different bots that you have. Now we're going to show an example of us asking the bot questions. We decided to add in different, due to time, we just decided to add in different answers and questions to show you an example. So as you can see, he asks what are your address and where are you? That's basically the same question, is responding with the answer that you have provided. Now our goal is to continue adding on different bots for different inter-messaging channels, and for our platform to be able to manage, for people to use our platform to manage those different bots. And Python is pretty cool, just saying.
So the basic idea is the more variations of the question you add on that screen that we saw, the more intelligent the bot is. Like the more forgiving it'll be for differences in different phrases and stuff. It'll basically be able to map a question to a certain answer, appear intelligent.
And I'll be passing it on to Marcus to continue the presentation.
told you about what we've done, you might be wondering where else would I be using these bots and under what circumstances? Well, as you might have guessed, right, it's a force multiplier. One person handling multiple people, multiple questioners, because now there's a bot doing some of the hard work, right? It's also time saver for repetitive, ongoing tasks. It's a personalized interaction with clients, right? Because people now realize that, oh, these are the questions that are being asked. And for employees and clients, it's an easier onboarding because all of the questions have been asked in some various form or another. But more importantly, it's a dynamic service delivery. In other words, as it's needed, the information that's delivered is dynamically given when and where that it's asked for. But what's most exciting for what we're doing is the bot server. Because the bot server allows very quickly, you don't have to attend programming school, be able to adapt bot technologies, right? So the corner store, the corner business will be able to adapt bot technologies very quickly. It will also reduce the cost of adoption because what happens is once you get into our bot server program, the development cost is actually going to be much lower. Once you've had your bot working, right, maintaining the bot will be on us, right? So you don't have to maintain and hire people to do the maintaining for you. This is very important. You remember when I showed you the Facebook instant messaging bot that actually did conversational commerce? Well, any store will now be able to do conversational commerce based on the bots that they deploy. But more importantly, once you're getting all of this information, you can actually build a business decision body of knowledge for your business, right? These are the questions that are being asked by my clients, right? And so you can focus on what's important to your clients based on these questions. This is what Brian and Jared also mentioned, is that right now there are many different platforms for doing bots, right? We just used Slack because it's what we use in the office. But Slack, Facebook, Twitter, IRC, YouTube, Reddit, all of these and more will be coming down the pike, right? And so the ability to respond in real time with bots to customers and members is a very interesting and important thing. For the bot server group, which is us, we can generate a lot of fees from transaction servicing, right? So once you have a transaction on commerce, like the YouTube or the Uber transaction, then we see ourselves being able to make a little bit of money on all the transactions. And so we enable a lot of people, we enable cutting edge technology for a lot of people, but we'll also be able to make this profitable. It's still very early days in the use of bot and AI, right? So it's going forward and using all of this technology for small businesses is something that we're really looking forward to. We're the Blueberry Muffin Tops, and we also won the Stanford Hackathon last month. Yeah. It's easy to remember, right?
Why did you cut so much?
Huh?
Why did you cut so much?
Oh, he went home.
I was tired. I was really tired.
He went home.
I needed to get home before I fell asleep.
So if you have any questions, oh, by the way, Kay has actually prepared a lot of good food. But it's really good pizza, right? So please stay and join us after this. But if you have any questions, challenge us.
You didn't say the main thing. What happens if the boy doesn't understand the question? The question is without.
So, yeah, right now it'll actually probably choose the wrong answer to the question. We didn't work on that too much, but what you can do is you can test what the confidence level is and that it's matching the topic correctly. So returns a certain confidence for everything. You can say if that's not high enough, let me return, a generic response like, hey, can you ask that differently or something friendly that'll make it more personal. Like the user will be like, okay, I'll take these answers.
Yeah, for example, you're in Byte Academy bot, right? You talk to the Byte Academy bot, right? And you say, oh, Python, Python, Python. By the way, tell me a little bit more about space, space travel, right? There will be some sort of a default response saying, please, say something else or ask something else. But it'll be gradual.
And these are sort of proof of concept bots, but you can imagine when you're combining, different elements from different APIs, it all builds towards a more intelligent bot. These are just one-trick ponies, essentially.
What's exciting about this is that it actually learns, right? So it might be primitive today, but you give it a few thousand, a few 100,000 inquiries in a year, 2 years, or 3 years, it'll probably have a lot more sense in terms of how it responds. Sorry.
I have two questions. I noticed you guys are using Postgres for Django. Is it because it syncs well as opposed to using something else like MongoDB? Like, why using Postgres for the Django as opposed to MongoDB when you already have MongoDB?
Right. So the Postgres is just for the front ends to list like the user's bots and stuff. That's sort of relational in nature, so it's like you're pulling from a bots table and you're matching to that user ID. So it sort of makes sense and allows us to build on that front end without being limited by the limitations of Mongo.
Okay.
The Mongo is just very good for the back end because you're not really hitting that database much. It's basically when you create the bot and when you want to update the bot, but otherwise you're not using that.
Okay. And my second question is something related to the zone of questions for the bot. Is there a way you come up with like a finite amount of, like a formula to actually say, okay, I'm only going to come up with 20 questions, and out of those, I'm only going to come up with 20 answers, and out of those 20 answers, you could answer any questions based on the bootcamp that I'm actually offering. Like a way to come up with like a corpus of possible questions that I could possibly ask about this bootcamp. Is that something you guys thought of? Or?
I did look into that. I was like, man, I don't want to write all these different versions of the question. Like, can I just make Google do the work or whatever? I don't know. I mean, I think if you were working in an HR position or something like that, and you have this, all these emails and people are chatting you, I think you could probably pull, that sort of information. But yeah, that's a little tricky because you want to make sure you're matching the possible questions to that topic, and you want to make sure, each question is sort of separated. Each topic is separated kind of cleanly before you set this up. So it's not a perfect system, but it's pretty good. Like if you had, say, 50 questions that covered most of the information on what you want to talk about, you would probably be able to do that very accurately. But it would take a little work, but yeah, maybe it'd take a couple hours, but it could save you so much time in the future.
So, and what API are you using for that FAQ part? I can't remember which one you actually displayed.
It's not an API actually. It's a node package called Natural. It's a set of natural language classification tools. So that had the Bayesian classifier that we used.
Any other questions? Everyone's hungry? Yes, sir.
When's the IPO for this company?
We have to get funded first.
Sorry, I just find this so interesting. Didn't know. If you guys are doing this over again, would you pick a different architecture or will you stick to the same thing that you're actually doing right now? Because this is like your first time, I believe, doing something like this, and it's quite...
Yeah, I'd make some changes, certainly, but yeah, the basic architecture, I think, is pretty good. I sort of like that it's very modular. We can it's pretty easy to add different bots and potentially to add other chat services, so I think it's flexible, but I'm saying I'm sort of a relative noob, so maybe I'm wrong about that. But yeah, I think it's pretty good.
So as of today, we're all unemployed. If you know anyone who's interested in 3 graduates of the academy, please look us up.